Great. I think that's a great format for us. We planned a 20-minute presentation, but in the middle, if you have any questions, just raise your hand and we can address that. And we hope to have plenty of time for discussion and feedback. So this is so we are actually the Feathers team. My name is Bojun Hu, and I'm a Taos associate, and I'm also a psychologist working in Beijing, China. This is Emily Wong, and she is a dance artist working in Beijing, China. And this is Ilda Freire, and she is a Spanish architect currently working in Beijing, China. And the three of us met in Beijing as part of a postmodern dance art form called contact improvisation. So contact improvisation is basically a dance form where two or more people can dance together improvisationally. So for example, we always have one point of contact in our bodies as we move in relation in response to one another. And we share weight, and we use movement and also space and rhythm in order to create a dance together. So that's how the three of us met. And over the course of our interaction together, we formed the Feathers team. And our goal is to bring movement into people's everyday lives. So the nest we created we did that with the generous support of Taos's Taos Associate Grant Program. That really helped us to build a nest that is large enough to fit 30 people as part of a participatory art project for the public in Beijing. And so we did that back in October of last year. So today, we want to share with you our co-creative process in making this nest. And we hope to, in this process, get some of your feedback about the project and also about any kind of theoretical or that other project-related ideas that you may have. We're looking to write an article based on this experience, and so we would like any type of theoretical resources or other project resources that you think could be related to our project. So we would love some feedback regarding that. One of the things that have really motivated us throughout this project is what I think John Schotter called the livingness, experiencing the livingness of life through meeting one another as living bodies. And so we wanted to create a space where we can meet one another and the community as living bodies. So for today's presentation, we've divided it into two big sections. The first is how we co-created a physical space for the project. We will talk about how the idea of the nest came about and the physical construction. And then we will talk about how we aim to create a relational space within the nest. So without further ado, Emily will tell you more about how the idea of the nest came about.
So I think back in the summer last year, or even earlier.
In the winter, I think.
In the winter,
yeah.
We meet weekly at where I teach. So we meet on a Tuesday evening, and so sometimes we dance, we talk, and then remember one day we were both really tired, and we were on the dance floor, lying on the floor, and then we started talking about naming things that made us feel more comfortable. And we had images like fluffy animal tails, lots of images from nature. And then from there, we started moving, improvising. So we had a session of that. And I guess we wanted to continue. And then Ilda also came in. So that was kind of the beginning of the process, us being in Beijing, feeling life, different aspects of life. So this idea of comfort, softness, warmth, a space where we can rest, play, to experience and to get closer to ourselves, and then also with the others. I think that's the core of our whole project in the beginning of the idea.
Yeah. I think we also did a lot of brainstorming in the beginning with different images, with different, like, we talked about tree leaves, we talked about murmuration of birds, fluffy animal tails, ways to bring softness into our lives in some way. Yeah. And so based on this idea, we started with Ilda's help, we started thinking about how do we bring this idea of softness, warmth, support, home into our lives and also into the lives of the community.
Yes, we start as we are saying, like imagining how this idea of comfort and play and game will come to a physical installation, allowing to bring people inside and enjoy it. And at the beginning, we after this open time of thinking, we got the possibility to do the nest with some materials. It was they were donated by some architect friend of us, and it was some steel structures and bamboo. And that was the first proposal we were showing to Taos Association. But after that first moment, this possibility was not longer available for some reasons. So we got again like the freedom to think about it, and we come to the material of fabric for the skin. Fabric because it's soft and translucent, and after designing the installation, we started building it when we got the opportunity to exhibit it. And this process was hard and beautiful, and we went to it, the three of us, with the help of the community. And this is the result. Yeah, we remember that it was hard because we had unexpected problems, like a little fire that came because the lighting we had designed was too close to the fabric, and the little fire started. Then the day we were building it, it was really, really windy, and it was almost impossible to keep it on the place. And well, we also could solve this problem.
So there was a lot of, I think, in the building process, it was a lot of having to problem solve, having to interact with one another, and also with the content improvisational community who was hosting us about how to actually make this structure a reality. There were just all these obstacles that we had to face and had to resolve one after another in order to actually, the nest wasn't actually, the final version of it wasn't what we planned at all. There was a lot of improvisation that had to be done along the way to actually make it into the form that it eventually turned out to be. Yeah. And so in terms of the relational space that we were trying to create, one of the things that motivated us was that we all live in Beijing, and one of our experiences of living in Beijing is that the interpersonal space is extremely stressful and jagged. It feels like when you're talking to someone on the street or even with a colleague, there's always a sense of being rushed. There's a sense that our conversation has to be aimed somewhere and has to achieve some goal. And so there's a lot of pressure in interpersonal relationships. And I think that's one of the things that Emily and I were feeling lying on the floor of her dance studio. And so we wanted to create a relational space that is slower in pace, where people can be bodily present with one another and to explore rather than having to arrive anywhere, and to have a space where we can experience something what Ken Gergen would call like multi-being. We're more than our working selves. We're more than members of our family. We're also just people who are already in relationships and trying to play within these relationships. And we wanted to create this space where there's this mutual responsiveness that we can, in the ways that we can be with each other. So Emily will talk more about how we try to bring this a deeper relationship with oneself in our space.
Yeah. So in response to that, we created these audio guides where people can listen to. So the solo versions, we have like a solo version, and we also have ones that are can be used by more than 2 people, like they can do it together. So usually these audio guides are 10 minutes long, and it's kind of designed to be a journey that will help us to get back to ourselves a little bit more, to be a little bit more present. And so for example, at the beginning of the audio usually is material that will help us to arrive and to relax. And then each audio guide will have a different image, a different focus. So one can be like a fluffy bird where the person can focus on the breathing. And we also have other images like sunlight and spiral, where people can really explore the space within their own body and then in relationship to the environment. And another one's called memorization, where you can imagine your whole spine as a group of birds, and how you can achieve more freedom, and to get in touch with yourself and to experience, to sense. And these content came from kind of improvisation between us, talking and playing with things in the studio. So, and then towards the end of this journey, we'll bring the person back to kind of in a moment where they are in relationship to the space. And yeah.
And in the process of forming a different relational space, we also, because 3 of us are coming from 3 very different disciplines and have 3 very different histories and experiences, we also came to a different relational space among the 3 of us.
Yeah. So as we start and develop this project, I think we develop this relationship between us, like from a beautiful idea and wanting to impact for better people's life. I think we end up also impacting our own lives, and it was and it is something that we love doing, and we want to keep doing. Doing the work together, we find a very deep communication between us. we have a small ritual before we start working that we call 5 minutes, and we have each of us have 5 minutes to just express something. We don't need to respond or go to it, come back to it later, and it helps us to release any personal tension or working tension. And through this way of working, I think we feel ready to go back to Beijing people and give them tools to deal better with the city.
In terms of creating the relational space within the community, the larger community, I want to talk about 2 ways. One is we have a very involved relationship with the content improvisation community. So it took a while to actually find a space to exhibit this nest. We had, I think, 2 different spaces in mind before, but they all fell through. And so finally, the CI community came to us and said, you know, we're having a festival, and we need something to divide the space up. Could your nest be there and help us divide up the space? And we said yes. At first, our nest was only going to be about 8 people, like kind of small enough to contain 8 people. But the CI group said, you know, we need something that's actually bigger because we have about, I think, 70 participants. And so your nest needs to be much bigger. Can you do that? So we figured out how to make our nest bigger and created this bigger nest that was in the middle of their festival. And the community the responses to the nest has been so warm. People enjoyed it while they're taking a break. And they were so involved that when it was time to take the nest apart, almost the entire CI community came in, and all of us, like in a big team, took down the nest in 2 hours. And it just felt like such a community effort. In another way, we were co-creating with this community through the practices that we were introducing within the nest. So as Emily has talked about, we were inviting people to listen to these audio guides. And they're not only individual audio guides, but they're also audio guides that you can listen with 2 or more people. And so, for example, there was a couple who went in to the nest. They were listening to the audio guides. And then afterwards, they came out and they wanted to talk to us because they wanted to share with us their story. They said they were having an argument right before they came to the nest. And then through the movement, they experienced something that they've forgotten, which is the affection between them and also the liveliness between the 2 of them. And so they felt that in the nest experience, they transcended their argument. They found a part of themselves that related to each other that is apart from the argument that they were having. So in this nest space, we had 2 other events. One was a workshop. So we led a 1.5-hour workshop where people experienced the nest, and we had the theme of returning to a sense of an archetypal home in one's body and with each other. And one of the members was a Tibetan woman, and she afterwards explained to us that in the Tibetan culture, there's a place called bardos, which is a place that you enter after you die, but before you enter death. And bardos can be experienced as a very chaotic and scary place. However, if you experience bardos in your life, then when you actually enter bardos, it will be a much more peaceful experience. And she said bardos in the Tibetan ancient literature is described as this all-white place. And when she entered our nest, that's what she experienced. She felt like she had experienced bardos in life, so that when she actually goes into bardos at death, she'll feel more peaceful. There were the third component that we try to facilitate in the nest is a participatory performance. So this is where we had about 35 people in the nest, where no one person is a performer and no one person is the witness. Anyone could be the audience and anyone could be the performer at one time. And people enter this space within a given time frame to experience this collective performance participation. And people had all sorts of different reactions and experiences. So for example, there were 3 friends who came to the performance, and they said they had no idea what to expect. And then when one of them went in, she actually felt very confused, but suddenly she saw this feather flying through the sky, and she just had the impulse to pick up the feather and throw it onto her 2 friends. And suddenly the environment or the way of relating to one another changed dramatically. And they found themselves playing with each other, relating to each other in ways that they do not do in real life. And so it really deepened their experience in this way. So through these different activities that we did inside the nest, we were also trying to create different ways of relating to each other. So in conclusion, we just want to say that we were so, this really has been a dream come true for us to build this space and to share it with the community in Beijing. We are so grateful to Taos for this financial support to make this happen. And we would like to continue to make urban spaces like this where people can experience movement in their lives in a different way and to connect with each other in a different way. And this is something that's that we're also very interested in getting your feedback and opinion on. We're interested in this intersectionality between embodiment, improvisation, and relationality. And as Maria has also said before about research and performance, the intersectionality of that. And so we would love to hear your feedback, answer any questions. Yeah, that's what we have. Okay.
Bojun, if everyone didn't have a chance to watch the short video you sent, would you be able to show it on the screen real quickly?
Oh yeah, we actually, you know, I just made a new video that's like a minute long, so we can watch that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, give me 1 minute. I'll share, yeah. Let me find it. 1 minute, okay. Oh, give me 1 second. Okay. Here, and then we share this one. Make it bigger, okay. Okay. So yes, so some of our questions are, we just would love to hear what your thoughts are, your feedback, and any connections, theoretical or practice-oriented connections that you have.